All right, class, if you notice today, we're going to continue in the factoring saga, but we're going to see today that something's a little bit different. Everybody look up here at my trinomial. How does this trinomial look different from what we did on our previous lessons last week? How is this polynomial different from the others that we factored? Do you see something that's different? Yes, that is right. We actually have a coefficient in front of the quadratic term. Yes, and so that just puts another spin on what we need to do today. So, as you notice, we have our trinomial as usual, and we're going to set up our two binomial factors like we did before. Okay, we're still going to have to look at our signs, and the sign chart doesn't change. The sign chart is still the same, so hopefully you have that memorized from last week. All right, but now we have to worry about the factors of my constant term, but we also have to worry about the factors in front of the quadratic term to get that linear term, the term in the middle. So, we're going to set it up. We're going to find our two binomials. We're going to look at our signs. Then we're going to check, find the factors that work. And the way we check to make sure is we X factor. X factor helps us decide when we check the middle if we've chosen wisely. So let's go ahead and try a few. Let's look at number 1. Okay, if we're looking at number 1, now let's go through our honey-do list. Step number 1 of the factoring honey-do list, is there a GCF? Well, when I look at number 1, there's no GCF. Okay, step number 2 says look at the number of terms. So we've got a trinomial here. We have 3 terms. So the first thing we've got to check is that a binomial squared. Well, my front and my back are not perfect squares, so it can't be a binomial squared. So now that means we're going to go to Part B on our honey-do list, which means X factor. So how do we do that? Well, remember, we're going to figure out what are the factors of 2. And my factors of 2 are 1 and 2. What are my factors of x squared? Well, that's easy. That's x and x. Now, let's look at our signs. Okay, let's look at our signs. If both of the signs in my trinomial are plus, then both of my signs need to be plus. And now I need the factors of 3. Well, the factors of 3 are 1 and 3. Now, here's the beauty. Let's X box and see if we've got the right setup. So we've got 1x times 3 is 3x. 1 times 2x is 2x. Remember, we're adding them up. We got 5x. Remember, X factor helps me check the middle. Okay, so I checked the middle. I got the right linear term. So my answer here would be x plus 1, 2x plus 3. Now, knowing that we're going to X factor, knowing that we're going to cross multiply when we check our middle, that also helps us with placement. So let's go over here and look at number 2. So let's look. Do we have a GCF in number 2? Nope. I got 3 terms. Is it a binomial squared? Well, 4 is a perfect square, but 3 is not, so it's not a binomial squared. So we are at X factor. So what are my factors of 3? Well, we're going to say 1 and 3. What are my factors of A squared? Well, that's going to be A and A. Now, remember, when the back one's minus, okay, when our constant term is negative, then I need to have 1 plus sign and 1 minus sign. All right, now, we need factors of 4. Are we going to try 1 and 4, or are we going to try 2 and 2? Well, here's where we got to think about things a little bit. My linear term in the middle is really 4. That's not a very big number, so I'm going to try 2 and 2 and see what happens. All right, let's X factor and see what we got. 1 times negative 2 is negative 2a. 2 times 3a is 6a. When I add those together, we get 4a. And our middle checked. Okay, so our answer is going to be a plus 2 as my first binomial. and 3a minus 2 as my second binomial. Now, my board's not working very well calibrating, so let's see if I can make it a little bit neater on the next road. Okay, so let's go down here and look at number 3. Well, again, no GCF. It can't be a binomial squared because the front and the back are not perfect squares, so we're to X factor. So here we go. What are my factors of 3? Well, it has to be 1 and 3. What are my factors of r squared? Well, that has to be r and r. Well, let's look up here. The constant is negative. The back sign is negative, so that means I need 1 plus and 1 minus. And now the only factors for 5 are 1 and 5. Now, look, if we know that we're going to cross multiply, okay, it makes no sense to put the 5 there. Why does that make no sense to put the 5 in that place? Because if I go to cross multiply, I'm going to get 15r, and that's way too big for the center. So that's why I said cross multiplying really helps with helps us with placement when I realize I've got to cross multiply to check the middle. So let's make this 1 and let's make this 5. Okay, so now let's X factor. We got to check the middle. So that's going to give me 1 times negative 5 is negative 5r. 1 times 3r is 3r. When I add those together, we get negative 2r. Did you notice my middle checked? And so our answer here, our two binomials would be 1r plus 1 and 3r minus 5. Nicely done. Let's look at number 4. Okay, we got to run through the honey-do list. How many? Is there a GCF? Nope. How many terms? 3. Is it a binomial squared? Can't be, because that 3 in the back's not a perfect square. So that means we're going to go look at X factor. So now, do we want the fact for 4? We can do 1 and 4 or 2 and 2 in my factors. Now, how do we decide? Well, my linear term's kind of small. It's a 4. So I'm going to start with 2 and 2 and see what happens. 2 and 2. Factors of c squared have to be c and c. Once again, that back sign is minus. It's a negative 3, so I need 1 to be plus and 1 to be minus. And now, the only set of factors for 3 are 1 and 3. So what do you think? Let's make this a 1 and let's make this a 3, and let's see what happens. Well, remember, we got an X factor to check the middle. Now look, I've got 2c times negative 3, which is negative 6c. And then I've got 1 times 2c, which is 2c. Now, when I add those together, I get negative 4c. Now, there's a problem because, remember, my middle is supposed to be positive 4c. Now, what do you think we can do to make this work? Yeah, I just need to change the signs in the middle. If I change this to a plus and I change this to a minus, now let's multiply. We've got 2c times 3, which gives me positive 6c, and negative 1 times 2c, which gives me negative, and now that makes this positive. Okay, so all we had to do that time was just change our signs to get everything in the right place. And so now then, my final answer here would be, I'm running out of room, let's put it here at the bottom. We would have 2c minus 1, 2c plus 3. Okay, so X factor helps us check. All right, and to make sure we have the right factors in the right place with the right sign. Let's try a couple more. Let's go up here and look at number 5. Well, if I look at number 5, okay, again, I'm kind of going through the honey-do list. No GCF, 3 terms, not a binomial squared. So we need factors of 6. Are we going to use 1 and 6 or 2 and 3? Well, let's go ahead and try 2 and 3 and see what happens. Factors of a squared are a and a. Okay, again, this back one's minus, so I need plus and minus, and we're going to do 2 and 1. Okay, let's X factor, and we're going to get negative 2a and 6a. Now, when I add those together, that gives me 4a. So the middle didn't check. Now, usually what I do, the first thing I do is I'm going to switch the my two constant terms around. And let's make that 1 and that 2. All right? So now I'm going to x factor again, and we're going to get 4a, negative 4a, plus 3a. And that didn't work. The middle didn't check there because I got negative 1. Well, okay, maybe I need to try 6 and 1 and see what happens. So we've got 6 and 1. I'm back to my factors of 6. Let's do a and a. 1 is plus, 1 is minus. Let's do 1 and 2 and see what happens. Well, when I x factor, I'm going to get negative 12a. And here I'm going to get positive a. And that's negative 11a. So that didn't work. All right. Again, what I usually do here is go over here and change my constant terms. So let's switch their order and make it 2 and 1. I meant to do them a different color. Let's make it 2 and 1. So now I've got negative 6a, and we've got 2a, and that gives me negative 4a. So guess what? No pairs of factors worked anywhere. We tried every possibility. So this one is prime. Now, the prime ones are a little bit harder to find because we have to go through and try every combination of factors. Okay, now let's get rid of all this so we've got some room. And let's go over here and try number 6. All right, let's try number 6. So, here we go. No GCF. No binomial squared, so I need factors of 6. Well, what do you want to try? Well, did you notice I need a 13 in the middle? 13 is kind of a big number. Okay, so I might try 6 and 1 this time, since I have 13 in the middle. So let's do 6 and 1, u and u. Okay, if I look at my signs, both of them need to be plus. Now, what do you think? We got to do the factors of 2, which are 1 and 2. If I know I'm going to cross multiply, where would be the best place to put the 2? Yeah, at the bottom, and then 1 at the top. Now, let's cross multiply or do our x factor. 6u plus 2 times 2 is 12u. 1 times u is u, which gives me 13u. So once again, my final answer here is going to be 6u plus 1, and then we've got u plus 2. Oh, look at number 7. How is number 7 a little bit different? How is it a little bit different? Yeah, did you see that we had variables squared on either end? And we've done that before. That's okay. All right, so definitely not binomial squared because this and this are not perfect squares. So here we go. The only factors of 5 are 1 and 5. We're going to have to do a and a. Okay, once again, that sign is minus. One needs to be plus and one needs to be minus. There's only one set of factors for 7, 1 and 7. Okay, hopefully it's pretty obvious that I keep 7 on top. I need to put the 1 there. And so now, let's cross multiply to check our middle. Let's x factor. So we've got, oh, guess what I forgot? I forgot to put the b's there for the b squared, so don't forget to do that. Now, 1a times 7b is negative 7ab, and that's going to give me positive 5ab, so we got negative 2ab. We have chosen wisely. So final answer here would be a plus b. That's the first part of my x factor. And then we have the second part, which is 5a minus 7b. Now, look at number 8. How is number 8 different? Yeah, they did it backwards. Okay, but even though they put my trinomial in reverse order, we're going to do what we've always done when we x factor. We're going to look at this first term and say, oh, what are the factors of 7? And we're going to say 1 and 7. We're going to look at our signs, and once again, that back sign is negative, so I need one of each. So now, front, are we going to do 1 and 4 or 2 and 2? Well, hopefully you realize 2 and 2 is where we're going, right? So we're going to do 2 and 2. We got to remember to put the s in there. So now let's x factor and see if we're right. Now this is going to give me negative 2s, and that's going to give me positive 14s. And if I put those together, we get 12s. Now the problem is, what do I need in the middle? I need negative 12s. So what do I need to go in and change? Yeah, I just need to go change the signs. This needs to become plus. This one needs to become minus. Now let's cross multiply. 1 times 2 is 2s, positive 2s. Negative 2s and 17 is negative 14s. And so now I got the right answer as negative 12. And so that means the final answer here is going to be 1 plus 2s. And then the second line gives me my second binomial, 7 plus 2s. All right. I think we've got a couple more, but it's still the same idea. Let's look at number 9. Do I have a GCF? Might think so at first look. But again, when I look at that middle term, 19, no GCF, no perfect squares in there. So here we go. Let's do 2 and 3, x and x. Both of my signs are plus. Okay, both of the signs in here are plus, so that means both of mine have to be plus. Okay, we need 1 and 15, probably not, 3 and 5. Okay? All right, so how should we put this in here? 3 and 5. Let's make this a 5 and this a 3, and let's see what happens. 2x times 5 is 10x. 3 times, we chose wisely the first time. We've got 19x in the middle. So that means my first binomial is the first line. We've got 2x plus 3. And my second binomial is the bottom line in my x box, 3x plus 5. Okay, let's skip number 10 because we've done a lot like that. Let's look at number 15. Okay, if we look at number 15, the reason I went here is because the signs are different. All right, so let's look. Okay, factors of 15 have to be 3 and 5. We need x and x. Now, did you notice this time my signs are different? I've got a negative and then a plus. And if you remember our sign chart, that means this is going to be, both of these are minus. And we need factors of 4. Well, what do you want to try? Let's try 2 and 2 and see what happens. Okay? Again, I'm going to always x factor to check the middle. I've got negative 6x there, and that's going to give me negative 10x. If I add those together, we have chosen wisely. So, first binomial is the first line, 3x minus 2. Second binomial, 5x minus 2. All right, class, good job. You can start your homework.